Three brands, three very different origin stories. One has been freeze-drying food since before the moon landing. One launched the same year the iPhone got its app store. And one is a retail label whose factory address you may never find on the bag. Before you spend hundreds of dollars stacking cans in a closet, let's read the fine print on who actually makes what you're buying. And here is the open loop to hold onto. Knowing a brand name is not the same as knowing who controls the production line. And by the end of this video, you will have a ranked framework for exactly that question. Let's start with the oldest documented lineage in the category. Mountain House states it is a brand created and launched by Augason Freeze Dry in 1969. That puts more than 5 decades of documented production history on the record before we read a single nutrition panel. And that longevity is the thread we will pay off when we get to quality controls. But here is where the corporate structure gets interesting. And it is the kind of detail that rarely appears on the pouch itself. Augason Freeze Dry is now owned by Arbor Investments, private equity firm. Private equity ownership is neither good nor bad on its face, but it is a material fact about who sits at the top of the corporate structure, and a careful buyer ought to know it. If you want to explore Ready Hour's current lineup from my Patriot supply, the link is in the description. Quick disclosure, if you pick anything up through the links in the description, this channel may earn a commission. That never changes what the evidence says. So the key operational question becomes whether the brand still controls its own production. On that point, Mountain House makes a specific and relatively rare claim for packaged food. The vendor states it freeze-dries its own meals at its plant in Albany, Oregon, with no co-packers or third-party companies involved. Vertical integration at that level, one roof, one supply chain, is the exception rather than the rule in shelf-stable packaged food, and it anchors the quality control claims we are about to examine. On that quality control thread, Mountain House states every pouch is scanned to ensure airtight seals and proper oxygen absorbers. The vendor also states it uses real food with non-GMO ingredients, no TVP, and no artificial flavors. Those are vendor-stated standards, not independently verified results, but they are specific, auditable commitments, and specificity is itself a signal worth tracking across all three brands. Now let's move to brand number 2, and here the corporate story is structurally different. Augason Farms states it started in 2008 and has served more than 3 million American families. That customer reach figure tells you something about market penetration. But notice what it does not tell you: where the food is made, who runs the facility, or whether any co-packing arrangements are in place. A careful buyer should register that gap. What Augason Farms does publish is a more detailed regulatory compliance stack than most competitors in this category. The vendor states its products are free from bioengineered ingredients, made in the USA with domestic and/or imported ingredients, inspected and audited by the USDA and Utah Department of Agriculture, manufactured according to FDA guidelines, and subjected to third-party microbial testing with full certificates of analysis. That is a notably long compliance list, but underline the phrase domestic and / or imported ingredients. That qualifier is doing a lot of work in a small number of words. It means the ingredient sourcing can shift without changing the label, which is precisely the kind of fine print that matters when you are building a multi-year pantry. Now for brand number 3, Ready Hour, the primary brand sold through my Patriot supply, states its kit is freeze-dried in the USA and made with non-GMO ingredients. That is the disclosure footprint on provenance, and it is a shorter one than Augason Farms offers. In the approved record, there is no mention of co-packer arrangements, named auditing bodies, or third-party lab testing results for Ready Hour. The absence of a disclosure is not the same as a deficiency in practice, but it is a gap in the documented record, and this channel reports the documented record. So where does that leave us before we ever touch calorie panel? On provenance transparency alone, the documented record produces a clear ranking. Mountain House is the most granular, named plant in Albany, Oregon, stated no co-packer policy, and scan-level quality control. Augason Farms sits at mid-tier. Regulatory audits and certificates of analysis are on the record, but ingredient origin is hedged behind that domesticand or imported qualifier. Ready Hour has the lightest disclosure footprint of the three on manufacturing provenance. That asymmetry should weigh on your purchasing logic, and it is one of several inputs, not the only one. If Ready Hour from my Patriot supply is on your shortlist, the link is in the description. Compare the specs directly against what you have heard in this video. The last manufacturer signal worth auditing before we close this chapter is Social Proof, and here the numbers deserve a careful look. Mountain House claims over 90,000 five-star reviews and a customer rating of 4.8 out of 5. Ready Hour's verified platform score, at the time of recording, sits at 4.89 out of 5 from 612 reviews. A pool of over 90,000 reviews and a curated count of 612 are not the same instrument. One reflects aggregate volume. The other reflects a narrower verified set. Neither number tells you whether the calories on the label match what a real person needs to function for 30 days. That is the arithmetic we have not done yet. We now know who claims to make what and under whose roof. Mountain House names a plant and a no co-packer policy. Augason Farms names regulators and labs, but hedges on ingredient origin. Ready Hour states USA freeze drying and an ONGMO status, and leaves the rest undisclosed in the public record. But here is the thing none of that provenance transparency resolves. If the serving sizes are engineered to make a 2-week kit last 4 days, the factory address is irrelevant to your wallet. Part 2 opens the calorie panel, does the arithmetic, and shows you exactly how many days of actual food you are buying per dollar. The numbers are worth waiting for. All three brands are linked in the description. Ready Hour from my Patriot supply, Mountain House, and Augason Farms. Pull the current specs, run the math alongside Part 2, and let the numbers do the deciding.